Okay, because yesterday was like this day of like love and cuddles and stuff, my people have a story called Blue Jay and His Wife. And the problem with the Blue Jay and His Wife story, and most of our stories back home, is that there's many different versions of the story. And so, for the last couple of days, I've been thinking about what version of the story I was going to be telling. Like, what would be the most exciting and less traumatic and a little bit more uplifting? So I'm going to tell this version. It's going to be the Haida version. And my grandfather was Haida, and this is one of his favorite stories. So I'm going to tell this one. So, back in the day, which was a long, long time ago, there lived a young girl in a village by the water. Her family has lived by the water for forever. So every morning, she would wake up, get dressed, go out by the water, and look for clams and oysters and crabs. And she would sing and do her chores. Every day she did this. Every day. Not only did she do her chores and did things for her family, but she also was very beautiful. So beautiful. Pretty hair, pretty skin, pretty eyes, well-mannered, well-tempered, polite and kind, very gracious. Everyone loved her in the village. One morning, the girl goes out to do her chores. She goes collecting her shellfish, her crabs, her clams. And all of a sudden, Blue Jay comes down from the mountain, and he's flying, doing his Blue Jay thing, looking for bugs, talking to the other birds, saying how's it going. And he sees this girl, and he goes, "Oh my God, that's a beautiful girl." And he's like, "I wonder if I can go sit next to her." And the girl, she's just minding her own business, cleaning her oysters, getting her clams. And Blue Jay's like, I'm gonna go fly down there. So he does, he's like, whoosh. And he's like, "Hello." And she's like, "Whoa. Whoa. Hello, Blue Jay?" He's like, "What's up? I'm Blue Jay. You're pretty." She's like, "Thanks. You're a bird. Why are you talking?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just not any Blue Jay. I'm the king of the Blue Jays." And she's like, "Oh, that's nice. I don't know what that means." But he's like, "Do you mind if I sit next to you?" And she's like, "I guess that's okay." And Blue Jay's like, "Okay, I'll just chill here. What you doing?" And she's like, "Cleaning shellfish for my family." He's like, "Oh, that's cool. You do that a lot?" And she's like, "Yeah." Like when guys try to make really weird, awkward small talk because they think you're pretty, and girls are just like, "I don't know what you want me to say." That's what was happening. So they talk, and the sun sets, and BJ goes, "Can I see you tomorrow?" And the girl's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll be right here." And he's like, "Okay, good night, see you tomorrow." And she's like, "Okay." So the girl goes home, and she gets up, and she does her routine of going down to the water to get her shellfish. And Blue Jay comes, and they talk, and they have a day together. And this goes on for a long time, months. The girl gets up, goes to the water, meets Blue Jay, they talk, they have fun, and they start to get to know each other. And sooner or later, they start to fall in love, which is weird, because he's a bird, and that kind of concerned her a little bit. So one day, the girl, knowing that she had feelings for this bird, she goes down to the water, and she's cleaning her shellfish like always. The Blue Jay doesn't come. He's late this time. She gets worried. But out of nowhere comes this canoe. Beautiful carved cedar canoe, completely carved out too, with a sea monster on the side and a big bold raven. And here comes this gorgeous man out of the water. And he has dark skin and blue eyes and dark hair. And she's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Hello, you don't recognize me?" And she's like, "No, should I?" And he's like, "It's me, Blue Jay." And she's like, no, Blue Jay's a bird, you're a man." And she's like, Blue Jay's like, "No, it's me, Blue Jay, see?" So he turns himself back into a bird, and she freaks out, and she runs away. She goes home, and she's confused. She's like, "There's a man, and he's a bird, and he's a bird man, and I don't know how to feel about this, but I love him." And so she's like, "Okay, I'll just go back in the morning, and hopefully he's there." So she goes back in the morning, and there's Blue Jay, but in his bird form. And she's like, "I'm sorry that I ran away yesterday." And he's like, "Oh, it's okay. I didn't know how you would feel about me transforming and stuff, so I just wanted to test it out. I'm sorry if I scared you." And she's like, "No, it's okay." And she's like, "I really like you." And he's like, "I really like you too." And so he turned himself back into a man, and he's like, "I'm more than like you." He's like, "I'm in love with you." And the woman goes, "I love you too, Blue Jay." And he's like, "I want to get married to you." And he presents her with their first gift. Back home, gift giving is one of the biggest things you can do to show that you appreciate and love someone. We give gifts all the time to show these things. So he gives her the very first gift that he gives her as her husband. So he gives her a gift, and it's a beautiful shell for her hair. And she goes, "Oh, it's such a beautiful shell." And then she gives him his first gift, which is the robe off her back, her wool cloak. And she's like, "Oh, we gotta go tell my parents." And he's like, "Oh, parents." And she's like, "Yeah, you have to do it the right way. You have to tell mom and dad." And Rudy's like, "I don't know about that, but if it's what you want, we'll do it." She's like, "Okay." So they go, and they go to their parents, and the dad's like, "Who are you?" And Blue Jay's like, "Blue Jay." And he's like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Mostly fly around, talk to plants and other birds and stuff, whatever." He's like, and the dad was all like, "So that means you don't have a job, right? So how are you supposed to take care of my daughter?" And Blue Jay's like, "I can take care of her. I can fish." He's like, "Not good enough. Do you have a canoe?" And Blue Jay's like, "Yeah, I got a canoe." He's like, "How big is the canoe?" And Blue Jay's like, "Pretty big." The dad was not having it. He was like, "I don't like this Blue Jay guy. He's not good enough for my daughter." And the wife was like, "But honey, he's so cute and nice." And the dad's like, "Nope, not good enough for my little girl. Blue Jay has to leave." And the daughter's like, "But daddy, I love him." And the dad's like, "Nope, I have a nice young Klamath boy for you. Big, strong arms. He can throw a spear." And she's like, I don't want a guy who throws a spear. I want Blue Jay." And dad's like, "Nope, no Blue Jay for you." And so the girl got really sad because the dad threw Blue Jay out the house. And Blue Jay's like, "What am I supposed to do?" And the girl's like, "I guess just leave. Dad said we can't be together, so we can't be together." And Blue Jay's like, "So that means it's just over?" She's like, "I guess so." She's like, "I don't know what to do." And Blue Jay's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go, I guess." And the girl's like, "Okay, goodbye." So Blue Jay leaves. And the girl, she starts to get really sad, and she starts to cry. And the days go on, and she tries to do her chores, and she tries to be happy, and she tries to sing while she works, but she can't, because she misses Blue Jay so much. And she cries, and she cries, and she stops eating, and she stops sleeping, to the point where her body just shuts down, and the girl dies because of her sadness and her disconnection with Blue Jay. So the family's in mourning. They're sad. They're like, "Oh no, our little girl, she's dead. What are we going to do?" So they prepare her body for the funeral. And back home, when someone dies, we wrap them in wool, and then we wrap them also in cedar in their bodies, and we put place the cedar crown on their heads. And we would put them out on the beach for a couple of days so that the ocean can hit them and prepare their body, depending on what kind of family they come from and also like what clans they come from. Different funeral preparations will be made. So her family, they wrapped her body in wool, wrapped her body in cedar, and placed her by the ocean. And we were going to leave her out there for a few days. So her body's sitting out there by the ocean, and all of a sudden, Raven flies by. And he goes, there's a funeral down there. I wonder what's going on. So Raven flies down. He's like, I wonder what's going on. And he looks, and he takes note of what's going on. There's a girl that died. Everyone's crying. And he flies away. He flies to the nearest cedar tree. And in that cedar tree is Blue Jay. And he goes, hey, Blue Jay. And Blue Jay's like, hi. He goes, I just saw a funeral down at the beach. One of the humans died. I think it was a girl. He's like, what girl? He's like, a really pretty one. It looked like everyone was really sad. And they're like, Blue Jay's heart stopped in his chest. He's like, oh no. So Blue Jay flies there as fast as he can. By the time he gets there, it's nighttime. And Blue Jay's like, oh no, it's my girl. And Blue Jay's sad, and he transforms himself back into a man. He holds her head, her dead head, in his arms, and he's like, I'm so sad, my girlfriend's gone. He's like, what am I going to do? And all of a sudden, the mist came, and the wind started to howl, and he heard this sound. He's like, what's that? And down from the mountains come the cannibal women. The cannibal women sometimes like to prey on the bodies of the dead girls and the little children. The cannibal women are like the boogie monsters of the Pacific Northwest. So those things that creep under our beds and hide in the corners. And parents use them to scare their kids. But anyways, the cannibal women come down from the mountains. And it's like, shh, 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 shh. And Blue Jay hears that, and he knows what's coming. The cannibal women are coming for his girlfriend's body. So he takes out his fishing sword, and he goes, you come closer, and I'll cut you. And they're like, you can't harm us. You have no power here, Blue Jay. And Blue Jay's like, oh yes I do. I got this sword, and I will mess you up. And the cannibal woman's like, no you can't, Blue Jay. You have no power, you're a lesser god. And he's like, I ain't no lesser god, okay? This is my woman, and you ain't touching her. So Blue Jay and the cannibals start having this big fight, and he stabs one, and black ooze pours from her, and then more come, and Blue Jay's starting to lose, but he's not giving up. He's still slashing and thrashing away. And all of a sudden, a boom comes from the mountain. Thunderbird knows that the cannibal women are loose. Blue Jay calls as loud as he can, Thunderbird! Come, I need you! And Thunderbird comes down from the mountain with his great wings, and lightning comes from his eyes and zaps all the cannibal women. And Thunderbird comes down and goes, why are you down here? And the cannibal woman goes, it's our time to feed, she's ours. And Blue Jay's like, no, she's my girlfriend and I love her. And Thunderbird goes, you can't have this one, leave. And the cannibal woman, fine. And Thunderbird looks at Blue Jay and goes, what do you mean this is your girlfriend? And Thunderbird goes, I'm sorry, sir, but I fell in love with a human girl. And Thunderbird goes, but she's dead. And then Blue Jay's like, I know. And Thunderbird's like, are you gonna try to bring her back? And Blue Jay's like, I'm gonna try. He goes, there's only two options, Blue Jay, and you know what those are. Are you willing to prepare for either of those options? And Blue Jay's like, yes, I am. So Thunderbird leaves, giving Blue Jay a hug, and goes back to his mountain. So Blue Jay goes, takes his woman, picks her up, puts her in his canoe, and paddles away. He goes to the mouth of the Columbia River where the river flows into the ocean, where the water is running the fastest. And he lays his woman down in the water, and he unwraps her body and washes off the death. He takes new cedar branches and washes her hair. He takes new cedar and washes all over her body, making it beautiful and shiny again. Blue Jay then takes a part of his heart out, and it's glowing hot and bright and beautiful, and he shoves it down inside his girl. And he starts to whisper a song in her ear. It's the most beautiful song. I wish I had a whistle so I can play it for you, but I don't. But imagine the sweetest thing that you can possibly hear from someone that you love. And that's what he was playing in her ear. And her eyes, they start to flutter open. And she comes back to life. And she's like, Blue Jay? He's like, yes, it's me. And she's like, I thought I was on the other side. He's like, you were on the other side. You were dead, sweetheart, for like 3 days. And she's like, oh goodness. Well, I'm sorry. And he's like, that's no problem. You're back now, and that's all that matters. But you can never leave my side. If you leave my side, you'll die again. We are connected forever. You cannot leave me, okay? And she's like, okay. So he takes her, and he has a house all prepared for her. She's happy. Oh, she's so happy. She's singing again. She's collecting fish again. She's so happy. She's the happiest she can ever be. Blue Jay's like, okay, I have to go do some Blue Jay stuff, but I'll be back by night, okay? She's like, okay, have fun at work, hon. He's like, okay, I love you. You know how that is. And then he goes. She's at home, and she's working on the weaving, and she's preparing some salmon for dinner, and all of a sudden, another canoe comes by, and they recognize her voice, and they're like, oh, that sounds like my cousin. And he looks, the other canoe boy looks in, and it's her. He's like, but she's dead. And she gets frightened, and she goes, oh, please don't tell our family. Please don't tell our family that I'm alive. He's like, oh, I'm telling. And he paddles as fast as he can back to the village, and he tells the whole village that she's alive again. And the parents are furious that she's alive and didn't tell them. So they go and they paddle as fast as they can to her. And she's like, no! And they're like, you're coming home right now. How dare you be alive and not tell us? And you're here. And she's like, but I'm married to Blue Jay. They're like, oh, Blue Jay. This is his doing? And then she's like, yes. And she's like, we're married. And they're like, oh, you're married? And just blows up into this ginormous argument. And she's crying. And so the father picks her up. And she's like, no, you can't take me away from this place. If I get too far from Blue Jay, I'll die. And he's like, yeah, if you get too far from Blue Jay, you'll die. Everyone always says that. You're a girl. And so the father picks her up, throws her in the canoe, and she's like, no, I'll really die. If you take me from this place, I will die. And he's like, don't care. So the father starts paddling away from the house. And as the father's paddling away from the house, the girl is starting to sink. And her eyes are starting to close. And she's getting weaker and weaker and weaker. By the time she gets to the village, she's almost dead. They don't understand. She was so vibrant and light back at the house. Was she telling the truth? So they get her into the house, and the mother's like, what have you done? And the father's like, I thought I was just doing what was best for my girl. And by the time they lay her down on the mat, she's already dead. The mother goes out and she calls for a finch. And she goes, Finch, go find your master Blue Jay and tell him what has happened. Blue Jay hears what has happened and flies there as fast as he can. He transforms mid-flight into a man and goes into the house. He goes, what have you done? What have you done? You've killed my wife again. And the man's like, I am sorry, I didn't know. I thought she was just being silly. I thought she was pretending to be dead the first time. He's like, pretending to be dead? She was dead for 3 days. He's like, humans, you guys just don't get it sometimes. And the father's like, I'm sorry. And he's like, you're sorry. You just killed my wife, and you're sorry. Well, guess what? I'm sorry too. From now on, when you guys die, you stay dead, okay? Because we supernatural beings aren't bringing y'all back to life, okay? Now give me my wife, Bluebird out. So Blue Jay's like, takes his wife and goes away. That night, Blue Jay is over his wife's body and he's crying. He's crying and he's crying and he's crying and he calls out to Thunderbird and goes, Thunderbird, what should I do? And Thunderbird comes down from the mountain and he goes, what's wrong, Blue Jay? He's like, I gave her part of my soul and it's gone now. I'll never get it back. I'm so broken. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do without her? I love her so much. And Blue Jay is crying and Thunderbird goes, don't worry. Since you love her so much and you've done so much for her and you gave of yourself first, I'll do this for you. He's like, do what for me? And Thunderbird turns into an old man with a big, dark, black cape, and his eyes are glowing like lightning. And he reaches behind his cape and pulls out this orb that's glowing beautiful and bright and goes, this is your girl. I got her for you. And I was like, oh. And he takes that orb of light, that soul of his girlfriend, and puts it into her body. And she opens her eyes again, and this time there's two strange men looking down at her. And she's like, was I dead again? And Blue Jay's like, you totally were, sweetheart. And she's like, can that be the last time I die, please? And Thunderbird goes, yes, that's going to be the last time you're dead. Okay? Because from now on, you're going to be able to transform into a female Blue Jay. Okay? So you live your life as a Blue Jay, and then you can transform at night into a woman. How's that sound? And she's like, I think I like that. I think I like that a lot. So Blue Jay and his wife live happily ever after. They're little baby Blue Jays doing Blue Jay stuff. And that's how love conquers and all that jazz. The end.